this presentation is going to be about building an AI doctor assistant on Android. I know it's a catchy title. Every time you see AI, you catch your eyes. But I'd like to know how many people have experience using AI in projects. Okay, cool. All right, so let's dive in. First question I would like to answer is why and what. So why is AI is changing everything, and I'll try to keep myself up to date with the latest news about AI. But at some point, I think you have to build something to really understand the capabilities, and maybe you have some apprehension about it, and actually it can be really simple. So I think building something is the best way to know. The next question is what? There is many possibilities. I was thinking trying to build something for the kid. I have a 5 years old daughter. She taught multiple language. I was thinking to do something like this with this. But since I joined Circle Medical, we talk a lot about AI, and I think the medical field is going to be really impacted by AI in a good way. So why not trying to build something on the Circle Medical application that could potentially be used in the future? And a couple of weeks ago, I found an article on the Google research blog that I'll add it in the slide. You can have a look after, which is really interesting. So you have an idea here about what Amy can be, but I couldn't find a good definition for it. So I asked ChatGPT to summarize the article in like 4 or 5 sentences and come up with this. I didn't feel like reading this in front of you, so I asked it to make it shorter. Still a little bit too long, so can you do it in 1 line? And he come up with this. So the article highlights Amy, Google Research AI system, which aids clinicians in medical diagnostic, reasoning and conversation, offering personalized support and explanation for diagnostic decision. So basically, it's a tool that can be used by provider to help them gather symptoms and find potential diagnostic. So one thing to note is that it's a research program. It's not available to the public, but the result was really interesting, and it's built on top of LLM. So it was like trained specifically for this task. But I was wondering if we could use LLM as it is today to build something similar. And I just want to make something really clear. It's not ready to be used. In the article, they mentioned a couple of times because medical is quite a serious thing. You have to be sure that you're not going to get crazy answer, and you have to be really careful. So I started to look at problems that we have here at Circle Medical, and one of them is no-shows. So a patient book an appointment, and maybe he cannot make it on time, so he never show up. So the doctor or the provider will just waste 30 minutes of his time, sometimes even more. And I wonder if we could use a tool like Amy, like gather all the symptoms, give a resume of the conversation, and then like show this patient to the provider in like a 15 minutes or 20 minutes appointment. Then it's a win-win, right? Another problem that we have is that we have too many area of care. An area of care is a type of appointment. For example, we treat ADHD. Circle Medical treat ADHD, sleep, hair loss, weight loss, a bunch of care, and people doesn't know about it. They often come for one problem that they have, and I wonder if we can help with that. Another way that the patient can see a provider is by going to the support team and say, for example, they take a photo of their arm and say, hey, I had this weird thing on my skin, I'm not too sure. And then the support team will have many questions to understand the problem. They have to go into a specific software to get the question to ask. It's a really time-consuming process, and I think LLM could be really good at this. So I'm going a little bit ahead of myself here, but so now the solution to those problems could be leverage LLM to collect symptoms and find the right area of care. And if you can summarize all the data that we collect and provide to the doctor, then we could even squeeze those appointments into no-shows. So then I start looking into what's available now. Like I mentioned, Amy is not available to use. And I wanted to be specific for Android because I'm preparing an Android meetup, so I wanted to do something Android specific. And one thing that I did is talk to my colleague here at Circle Medical, and my awesome colleague Mujib told me that he used the OpenAI Kotlin SDK, and he had some in a personal project, and he had some really good results. So definitely something I start looking at it into. Then even before I had this idea of building a project, I start looking into Gemini Nano. It sounds really promising um, because it's running on device, so none of your personal data will leak. And building something related to medical, you have to be extremely careful with the data that the patient will give you, right? You don't want to leak any of these. And how many of you knows what HIPAA means? HIPAA, H-I-P-A-A, you know? You want to give a definition?
I think there are like the regulations that you need to follow in order to create anything health related.
Yeah, basically that's it. Again, I didn't expect anyone to know about it. Good job. But I asked ChatGPT to give me a summary of what HIPAA is in one line. So yeah, basically it's extra security measure to make sure that the personal information you give about your health um, will not be shared with anyone, or just extra security measure. And that's why I was really looking forward to use Gemini Nano, but I apply, so it's not available to the public yet. You can register to have access, and I did a couple of weeks ago, but I never hear back from Google, so I say goodbye to Gemini Nano, and I start looking more into the Gemini Android Client SDK. So again, I linked the documentation of those two SDK here. And the first thing that I start looking into, so I read the documentation, the OpenAI SDK documentation, and the first thing that I start looking into is the OpenAI chat. So the pros and cons that I learned along the way are that it's production ready, it's using coroutine and flow, it can take instruction. That sounds maybe basic, but you will see that with Gemini you have to find some trick to give instruction. The cons are that you have to deal with the list of messages by yourself. You have to put them in the right order to display to the UI. So it's a little bit more work. And also it doesn't have any persistence. So for example, you cannot retrieve past conversation that you had, so you have to save it locally. So we're gonna go, before I jump to the code to show the implementation, that's just the architecture that I use. So I'm using MVVM, Compose, Dagger, and it's a simple activity with some Compose, view model, the different assistant that I implemented, and the assistant will get the SDK. After, is the size of the code okay? Can everybody see it? It's good? Cool. Even I can see it. All right, and you're far behind, so but maybe you have the good eyes. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the code. I think you spend a lot of time today looking at this, so I'm going to try to go fast. But if you have any question about anything, I would be happy to look after the conversation, after the talk. So, like I say, we're using Dagger, so that's how I provide the OpenAI object. You can see that it's really, really simple. I just pass the OpenAI key. And I'm going to talk quickly about the next tool that I use after. That's Gemini SDK. And you can see here I could set the temperature. Does anybody know what temperature it is? And I don't talk about... No, yeah, I don't talk about weather, especially not today. So temperature basically is how the model will behave. A low temperature is going to be more deterministic, and a high temperature, when it doesn't know it, will try to make things up. And so put a low temperature because medical is, you don't want to mess with that. You want to have deterministic answer. But here on the SDK, the OpenAI SDK, I was not able to do it. And I'm not sure what the default setting are. I check on the OpenAI API side, and I think the temperature is 0.7. So yeah, it's for our application, that's kind of annoying. Just going to go quickly over the code. You can see it's a really basic activity. Just get my view model. I get the compose code. Just going to go quickly over this. Okay, that's going to be how it looks like. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this, but the cool thing is that I would say maybe 80 or 90% of the code was generated using, I don't remember if it was OpenAI or Gemini. I always try both, so I have a hard time remembering which one I use at this time. But I just prompt like, hey, can you build a chat screen using Compose? And it came up with this, and I was like, oh, that's quite impressive. I just made some small trick, and it worked pretty well. But there is some improvement to do on the UI. I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but yeah, it saved me a lot of time using ChatGPT to build this. That's the view model. The thing you're going to see me changing is here the different implementation of the different assistant that I created. We're not going to test the OpenAI chat. I'm just going to go over quickly, and we're going to test the two other because OpenAI chat was not really, well, not giving me great result. Just going quickly over this, you see that when you create a message, you have to set a role. I've used three role: system for the chat, assistant for the assistant, that I'm going to show later, and user. So every time I'm going to write a message on the application, it's going to be set as the role user. You see that here I have a response object, which is a mutable state flow, handling a list of message, and the question. And here I concatenate, combine them, and just expose it to the view in the view state. I know that normally you don't handle the view state in a lower level object, but it was just more convenient for me to switch between the different assistants. Yeah, pretty basic. After that, you just send a message and you get then you get the message. You send a message, you get a response, and then you have to deal with putting the right message into the right response or question, and then you show it to the viewer. So not super interesting. So I'm gonna already build this assistant. I'm just gonna go back to the presentation. Go back to this slide. So next, I start to look into OpenAI Assistant. The pros and cons are that pros, it can handle the conversation for you, so you don't have to deal with the list of messages, combining them, putting in the right order, stuff like that, so it's faster. And you can also retrieve past conversation. So because you're going to create an assistant, you're going to create a thread, and you're going to add a message to this thread. Assistant and thread will have an idea, so you can fetch a specific thread or a specific assistant. The cons are that it's in beta, so it's going to change probably in the future. And also the SDK documentation. So I really say the SDK because OpenAI Kotlin SDK, the documentation is not really good. Everything is on GitHub. And if you want to play with it, I highly suggest that you go into the OpenAI API documentation, which is much better. And I've learned a lot reading this documentation. So let's go quickly into the OpenAI assistant, and I'm going to demo it after. So bear with me a couple of seconds. So here, well, that's really interesting. This is where I set the assistant. Here, that's what I mentioned. You can retrieve an assistant by a specific ID. And here you can retrieve a thread using a specific ID. So here I'm creating my assistant, giving it a name, basic instruction. So I tried different instruction. Kind of hard to see, but it's just the prompt that the model is going to use to know how it should behave. I'm using GPT 3.5. I know 4 is available, but I decided to use 3.5. Um, and then I create a thread. And so here it's maybe more interesting. So every time I'm gonna add a new message to a thread, so like I do here, I call OpenAI message, I pass the thread ID, and I give the message basically. Once you do that, you have to run it, and you're gonna have to look for response until the object called run give you the status that is finished. That's what we are seeing here. So basically this is going to be run every time I add a new message. We're going to create a run, and we're going to wait for the status to be different. We're going to run it until it's different and completed. Yeah, so let's test it out. Um, Okay, so that's a circle medical application. Not sure if you see this cute cat doctor, but this is going to be the main entrance for my the assistant. A really sophisticated loading message. Do you have any physical symptoms? So kind of straight to the point. Um, so we have, like I said, we have different type of appointment. Here I'm gonna try to get anxiety and depression. So let's try it out. Um, no, leaving, leaving down. Do you have trouble sleeping or have change in appetite? No. Have you been feeling anxious or overwhelmed lately? Yeah, I think it's better lead. You may benefit from anxiety and depression video assessment. Would you like to see the next ability for this appointment? Let's say yes. That was kind of straight to the point. Okay. This time it didn't work. You see that he's giving me the next availability. That's exactly the type of things that we don't want. We really want to make sure that. So yeah, basically here I was expecting to. So I did some kind of messy logic to, if in case of a yes, and I see the type of appointment, I will go to the next page where the user can see the different type of appointment. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And I think it's because he didn't use the exact term for the appointment, so bummer. But let's see if we have a better result with the next implementation. So I'm gonna run it now.
So you,
Yeah.
so you are triggering action by looking at what.
Yeah, that's a kind of a messy way. Yeah, I know there is other tool that you can use. I think one is called VoiceFlow, which is basically intent-based AI messaging system. So it was really interesting, and I started looking into it. Actually, I did this smaller version of this presentation in 2 weeks ago during the engineering offsite, and one of our product manager told me about voice flow. So there would be a better way to do this kind of stuff. Here, I just check for yes and check for the yeah. Let's switch to Gemini now, and I'm gonna run, so it's ready when I finish. All right, so yeah, this is done already. The Gemini Assistant, same, the pros and cons. Pros is that it handles the conversation like the OpenAI Assistant. It's really simple. You don't have to create thread and run and loop over to see if you get an answer. It's also more customizable. We can look after into the code. The cons are that you cannot retrieve past conversation, or at least I didn't find any way to do it. And also instruction is a little bit weird to set for your assistant. So let's go into the code. So again, that's how I provide my model. You can see that here I just set the temperature, but you can do much more. I'm just going to go quickly here. You can set more settings, but for my use case, I would just wanted to set the temperature, and yeah, just give the model name, the API key, and then the config that I give here. And you can see here I added a comment saying that giving the instruction is available in the API, but it's in beta, and it's not available on the SDK yet. But I hope it's going to be available soon, because it kind of makes sense to give the instruction when you create your model. I'm going to show you how I do it now as a workaround. Disappear, so it's Gemini Assistant. So here, that's where I set my assistant. You see that I'm going to create a chat object by calling the start chat, and I give a list of message. And one weird thing, I think it's weird, is that the first message has to be sent from a user. So I was expecting to give the instruction first, and then the user can ask question, and at least it kind of makes sense to go that way for me. But yeah, no, you get a crash when you do that. So that's the workaround that I found. I just set the first message as a user, then I pass on the instruction, and then I send another message, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so every time I send a new message, I'm going to call update chat history. So the chat object is going to give me the history, the full history, and I'm just going to pass it to my UI model. I'm going to do some magic to only show what I want. And you see that it's really straightforward. You don't have to do any trick to see if you get a response. So let's go back into the application. So, hello, I'm here to help you find the right appointment to you. Can you describe your symptoms? So, in the instruction for Gemini, I give an example of a conversation. And this example is using anxiety and depression type of appointment. So, I'm not going to cheat, and I'm going to try to get another type of appointment, which is going to be sleep. Feeling tired. Actually, it's been a long day today. How long have you been feeling tired? It's about a week. Do you have any other symptoms like a fever, cough, or sore throat? No. Okay, again, straight to the point. That's the thing. Sometimes I get a full screen of question and answer, and sometimes it just like asks me two questions and say, okay, that's what you need. And so I think maybe playing with prompt can help with that, because in the prompt I didn't spend too much time asking for different symptoms and stuff like that. So yeah, this time it was straight to the point. So let's see. And actually it didn't say a wellness exam. That's not what I wanted. So let's say I don't think I need that. Let's see what he's going to say. Okay, you really don't want help today. Let's try to go a little bit silly. I'm really tired. How long have you been feeling tired? I told you. 1 week. So I know live demo is always not going as expected, but when you do a live demo using AI, it's really not as you expected. I apologize for asking again. I'm still under development. Oh, okay. Is there anything I can help you with today? I'm not sure what to ask anymore. Can I have a sleep appointment?
Ask him what kind of appointment I should.
Let's try that, yeah. Because I give the list of appointments that I have, so let's see. Yeah, that's a security measure here. What type of appointment? Well, let's see, do you have? Alright, let's look nice. Where is the sleep? Oh, sleep appointment. Okay, didn't really help, but let's try it out. Yes. And yeah, that was what I was expecting in the first. Well, I'm not sure he deserves any applause because he's kind of. And look at this. Yeah, next availability of Hammond. Yeah, he's going crazy now. All right. So yeah, it went kind of good. Let's say. Let's go back to the presentation. It's going to be the end. So um, I did this project to play around and to learn a little bit more about AI. And the key takeaway are that prompts is really important. I play a little bit with it, but I think I can still improve. I thought that I had good skills at prompting, but I'm doing all the time using on Google, like asking questions and going to Stack Overflow. But it's a different skill when you're dealing with AI. So and the documentation that I link is really good about helping you with the right prompt. Actually, after reading this this documentation, I start adding examples and improve a little bit, but not that great. So yeah, like I said, documentation is super important. OpenAI have a really good documentation, and Gemini is, I think, even better. I think Google is really good at doing documentation. Talking about capabilities, here this project was just about text to text, but you also have image to text, text to image. So, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have even more. It's going to be even more capable. Um, is it ready for prod? I think you've seen the answer. No, it's really not, and I didn't expect to have anything ready for prod. Actually, if I go back to the Google Amy article, even Google say that it's not ready for prod. So yeah, definitely you're not going to see in the simple medical application soon. Again, it's not HIPAA compliant, so there is no way for us to use OpenAI or Google Gemini because of that. One thing that I could see this coming into life is Circle Medical signed a partnership with Mila, which is the Quebec AI Institute, and we're gonna have project in partnership with them. And well, I think the competition at Circle Medical to build a project with Mila is going to be intense, but I would definitely like to have the opportunity. So yeah, maybe it will happen in the future. And that's it. Thank you.